My apologies, this is the hard watch for y'all, but this is my Toyota Alphard. I dragged it against a low wall and scraped it from the front all the way to the back of the car. So it's gouged in, so it's going to need quite a bit of repair work. This is the kind of products that I've used, although you can use, because I'm going to be using a compressor spray gun on this. But this is the products I used. I've got them all lined out here. You need to order these in, or like I've got them already stitched up, ready to go. So this is the thinner across here. It's used to thin out the paint and other products, and that's the color coded paint which I got from New Again in Bedfordshire. And as you can see, it's this is the 209 Toyota color, and you can get the color of it that you require from the chassis of the coat of the car, or it might be on the inside door frame. So anyway, we've got that. And this is the that's paint, sorry, and apologies again because I just said I'm doing this video and just adding the text. And this is the clear coat, and that's activated for the clear coat and thinner. So you mix those three together in the required ratio. In this case, is 2, 1, and 20% thinner. Okay, here we go. To remove all those gouges, I'm using this P38 isopon. So it's basically catalyst and paste, mix them together and scrape it along the with a spreader along the damaged area. So you just want to leave it a little bit proud, and then you use some wet and dry sandpaper just to bring it down flush with the surface. You want to see that nice flush edge or feathered edge of the P38. You can use sanding blocks for this, but you want to try and avoid creases because you don't want to apply too much pressure. Now, this is another thing you can buy. The Simon Eyes here. It's a clear acrylic lacquer. I like this what we call 2K because it's much more resistant to damage from chips and also from UV light as well. So that's why I like these what they call 2K packs. Okay, so as I said, I do apologize because I'm working literally without a script here. So these are the products we're going to be using, and of course it comes with, when we're using this, we also need to use other components such as the compressor with the gun, and also sandpaper as well, wet and dry sandpaper of various diminishing grits in order to just flatten out the surfaces. Okay, so I'm going to show you some other stuff that we've got. That's the compressor there that I use. Now I use this compressor a lot for various things, such as blowing out debris in awkward places like under seats of cars. And in this particular case, I'm going to use it for this spray gun as well, which is it is a high volume, low pressure gun. I believe that's it, high volume, low pressure. Was it low pressure? Either way, there we go. Okay. This airline is the quality airline stuff. I bought one from Machine Mart. It was made out of black rubber, and it just left black rubber marks all over my skin everywhere. So this is really nice. It's a proper professional one, airline, and it's just so nice to work with. Attached onto it is this high volume, low pressure, gravity fed gun with this pressure gauge here. So this particular one works at between 2 and 2.5 bar, and it contains several knobs here. That one there, the bottom, is to adjust the pressure going in. Okay, and over here, this bottom one is the volume of paint going in, and the top one there is the degree of spray. So I leave that wide open on the degree of spray. That gives it a nice wide. You get different nozzles. This is the 1.4, so it means I can use it for a range of different things. And yep, that little bit there is just going to, that crown there is just going to atomize the spray and drop it onto the bodywork of the car at a slow speed, which means the vast majority will stick. Here you can see that I've basically masked off this area altogether, the top half of the car, because I'm only going to spray to the bottom of the car exactly where that line is. And as you can see, I've actually started the base coat spraying here. So it's already got its first layer of base coat, so the Isopon's been on it. It's been smoothed down, but you'll notice that bottom masking tape is flipped over. And the reason for that is because it's flipped over so that and stuck upon itself, so that the bottom edge has got a slight gap of about maybe 4 millimeters, where it will not stick to the vehicle and just leaves a small gap. Top of it all is taped up nicely to secure it. Okay, low tack masking tape, and this long paper you can buy in rolls for spray painters to use. It's always good to just mask off as much of the area as possible. The preparation I've done is just on the door. I've not done the actual the bottom of the door frame, because you know what, I'll probably come back to that another time, because that thing's not going to rust this winter. But the temperature is dropping below 10 degrees Celsius, and 10 degrees Celsius is the minimum required for paint to actually set. Okay, so I'm on the move again, as you can see. And I'm just going to see where I'm actually taking you to. I must be taking you somewhere important. Let's go find out. Where are we going? I'm just going back and forward, haven't I? Really? Here we go. Okay, this is the other thing you're going to need is a spray mask. Okay, now this one is specifically for spray paints. It's not the ones that you used during the pandemic, etc. This one's specifically for spray paint. It covers the nose and mouth, but you also want to cover your hair and as much skin, and you want to wear gloves and leave little skin available, because this stuff is toxic. All the chemicals are toxic, and they do contain cyanide. So you want to be in a nice, well ventilated area, and that's why I'm working in the garden. Now I haven't got a tent, etc. So I'm having to be very careful with the how fast this stuff sets. Okay, so as I said, we're going to mix all this stuff and stir it really well. Shake that tin of base coat, and make sure you get all those little metal particles moving to the top. When you're doing that base coat, once you've put the initial one down, you want to give it a very, very fine mist, just like flap it over to let the metal particles just protrude through that top layer of base coat. Okay, and other little tip is that catalyst that you're looking there, once it's opened, it tends to nacre itself very quickly. So a good rule of thumb is if it's shaking and it's actually fluid, then it's potential for it to still be workable, but don't count on it. So here you can see the gouges all the way through it, and it's quite deep gouges, you know. There's no doubt about it that this thing has had a wee bit for battering. But also bearing in mind, this bottom section of the vehicle also takes a lot of stone chips, so it's not a bad way. It's not a bad thing that we're having to repair this, or learning a new skill set. And each time you'll get better at doing this than I do, and I can see improvements each time I do a bit more spray painting. But this, and you can see over here, this is from an old damage. This has been damaged before, I can tell, because it's filled there. And here I've just roughened up all the parts I'm going to be painting with 400 sandpaper. Okay, I've just done it very quickly so you can see it, but it's going to be roughened up a lot more than that, and that just allows all the paint to stick. Over here, rust has been removed, little water droplets there, because I've washed all this down with a fair liquid and then a degreaser afterwards, just trying to remove as much of this. So that's the Isopon in, as you can see, a little bit flush, and it's going to be sanded down using wet and dry, taking your time. And if you sand it down, you're going to get some little porosities, etc. So I sanded it first time around, got little bits of holes still present after I sanded it. So what I did is I went back over it with the Isopon and just filled up the holes, built them up in levels. Okay, now if you've still got some little drops, you can use that orange spray paint that I've used there, and that is a filler spray. So it's like Isopon, but just fills up small little deficits and sets up, and then can be polished down. Now this is the grey primer I used. I could have used one on the power gun, but I had this lying around, and it's a decent PSI 38 or 2.71 bar, so it's coming out at the same kind of pressure as the spray gun. Okay, and I'm just going to go around it. That first and the first spray there, you can see I've gone around it, and I wasn't happy with that front bit because it just didn't look right. It was still lumpy. So rather than just painting over it again, I've just wiped it, basically wet and dried it all down, put a little bit more of the eyes upon just to reshape it. And the preparation really makes a big difference here. So with that in mind, we'll just respray that. I've got this heat gun here just to flash off the top surface so that it's, because it's cold temperature now, so that the flies, etc., don't land on the paintwork and destroy it. Okay, and remember that we're going for a soft air edge to this paint, so we don't want it to be like a sharp linear line. I've done that in the past, didn't look great, but as I said, you learn each time you do this. You learn something completely different. So eventually you become quite good at this, but it does require you to be doing this a lot in order to become an expert at this. Okay, so you can see this has now been primed. The primer helps to adhere the paint, the base coat, to that surface. The base coat then adheres itself to the top coat, which is the clear surface. So as you can see, I've masked off this all this area, and there it is, all prepped, ready for the base coat to go on, which is in this case the 209 black, which New Again in Bedfordshire has made a small pot. I think it came to about 40 quid or so for that pot, but that's a lot. So it's neat, and it's going to be diluted down. You all need a tiny bit of paint to actually make this, to do all this surface. So essentially, that paint is just going to sit there. You've got to get a nice linear coat. It doesn't need to be 2, 3, 4 coats wide. It just needs to be enough to cover it nicely and let it dry. And then what I did was I just fine dusted it on the wide open setting, so the actual horn head is wide open, and just basically sprinkled it across so that the metal particles just stick on their side as opposed to flattening out. And we're going to follow this. Now, you see over here, there's some other scratches, etc. higher up. I'm not too fussed with those. My objective here is to try and get that area protected so it doesn't corrode during the winter months. Okay, so you can see it's actually not looking too bad. I don't think you'd instantly say that the thing was scratched. Okay, and there we go. There's the edge there. I said to you about flipping the masking tape underneath that. You can get a fingernail underneath it, and that is how you get a soft edge. So you're firing the air gun perpendicular to that wall, and just as it hits that little edge, some of the paint will bounce back and give you a soft edge. It won't give you like a strong linear line. You're going to have to just sand this here, and there you go. You can see the black. You can see the black base coat has gone down. I think I did it a fine mist and then another fine mist, and just flashed it off with the heat gun, and then put in another slightly thicker coat. And I'm just going over the game, about a 75% overlap on each pass. And there's a specific way to pass through these. You have to go beyond where you're going to stop. Okay, you'll notice how I'm protecting the ground as well, because the last thing you want to do is limit your arm movement, because you're trying to keep it at a distance of about 8 inches away from that metalwork, and it has to be perpendicular to the metalwork. So you don't want to be tilting it. You want to keep that arm locked so it's vertically pointing at all times. Okay, so you can see how that black has come through. The next stage would be to use the top coat, and that's what I've been doing next, which is using the top coat. And again, I've used a very fine misting, and leaving them for about half an hour each. And then I've used a thicker coat with, again, a 75% pass, so you can actually almost see it wanting to run, but you've got to get that nice kind of like wet look to it. And then I've flashed it again with the heat gun, and then left it for an hour. As I said, at a minimum 10 degrees Celsius, so I've left it for an hour, and then I've repeated it again with that coat of gloss again, or top coat, or clear coat, whatever you want to call it. And again, I'm going to remove all that that masking tape very shortly so it doesn't set with the paint. Okay, so I'm going to remove that away, and that's a little edge there. Now normally you'd paint a full panel, but I'm just done a little test run there. There was a bit of corrosion there. I don't want to see corrosion in this vehicle, but look at that. Okay, that's all going to be hopefully glossy and shiny. So I'm going to leave that glossy look. Don't dry the car for 2 or 3 days, just let it set as much as possible, and then we're going to wait about 20 days or so before we start the next portion, which will be in a separate video, and that will be sanding it all down with using the wet and dry until it's all the larger particles have been actually smoothed out onto a very, very smooth sandpaper, and then we're going to buff it down using a different technique called compound, but diminishing grit compound. So it starts with quite large particles and then breaks down to smaller particles.